So simulcasting, what you're watching right now is me interacting with students in the class, and then trying to interact with those of you at home. And one of the issues with simulcasting is our teachers are trying to figure out what that looks like. How often and when do I need to interact with you versus when do I need to interact with people in the class? So as teachers, we're kind of split between the two. And as I sent in a letter to you, imagine Johnny Carson or David Letterman or Jay Leno. So you're at the Johnny Carson show, and imagine that you are required to joke and interact with not only the studio audience, but the home audience too, because they've got things to say and you're going to be able to hear from them. And so you're the writer, producer, director, the host. You're also the camera operator, the sound operator. You're the usher, and yes, you're the bouncer. And so all of that's happening at once, and you're doing it on an empty stomach and a full bladder. So this is happening, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but, and I'm going to do this throughout the rest of the session, Johnny Carson is masked. Oh, there we go. And because we like to be very safe, we double mask. So, all right, and then we get this cool technology, which I love, I really do. So thank you. Now, if you can still hear me, I hope you can. Most students do. Good. So what does it really look like to do a lesson this way? First of all, I want to kind of demystify the fact that Zoom itself in distance learning has not been good for students. It actually has some major advantages. One of the advantages in Zoom is because I'm engaging with you right now. I can see all your expressions. And if you have a question for me and you're shy, you can throw it in chat, and you can throw it just to me. And you don't have to worry about anyone coming back at you and say, well, that was a ridiculous question. Where have you been? And then I can take that question and I can field it myself anonymously, or if it's a really good point, I can really praise you for doing that. So Zoom has some really good benefits. Those benefits are kind of lost as we move into hybrid, because now I have to pay attention to the students who are in the classroom. And you'll throw something in chat as we're discussing, but because I'm now paying attention to the classroom over here and trying to get their reactions, your reactions are lost. Now, for some students, that's okay. They're just going to shout it out at home and I'll hear that. But we've been in distance learning for a year, so many students and those shy students don't want to just shout it out, and they're going to throw it in chat. So I lose some of that. While we're in class, there's a few other things that I lose. And I want you to remember what we're trying to do in simulcasting. It's not broadcasting. We're not having students just call in and watch me do my thing and passively sit there. Simulcasting is really an attempt to engage the students at home in the learning as close to possible with the students that are here in school. That's what we're attempting to do. It's clunky. It's just clunky. And I'm not saying it's bad, but it is exhausting because all of my experience and instincts are how to work with this class, and now I have to transfer it to this class. What I want you to know now, if I have to redirect the class to have a discussion with students in the room and in the class, well, now I have to go to my browser, head-up display, and the actual icons for all this are pretty small. So I'm teaching over here to try and engage them. And then, oh, did I mention, hang on, I now have to wear trifocals. Okay. Now my trifocals are going to steam up after a while because I kind of get into my teaching, and I'll have to take them off, but I have to use them. I actually need quadfocals now because I need to see the small icons and indicators on the desk here. And I'm going to have to move from this position over to my computer to do that. Now, the thing that's really difficult is that from this position, if you're looking at the classroom, all of my students are double masked. So when they raise their hand and I call on them, they're going to say something. And because of the traffic in 17 and the machinery, I'm going to go, what? Because they're double masked. So I'm going to turn off my sound here, and I'm going to switch it to my sound on a computer. All right. And then I'm going to put my mask on. And I'll just sit, not even all the way back. I'm going to say, Mr. Ryder, I think that the thing that you were just talking about is weird. I mean, are we really going to go through that? I mean, come on. So it's really difficult. And I got to tell you, I teach psychology. Oh, let me turn this back on. Hang on. And this, by the way, what you're hearing now is me when my batteries run out of my monitor here. So now I have to go back. I've got to switch my mic to my really cool mic. Put this back on. All right. So now, I'm switched back. So what happens is I spend a lot of time asking people, what did they just say? And I teach psychology, and one of the things we know is we use all of our senses for hearing. We don't think about it. I never knew how deaf I was until people started covering their mouths with masks. Because I really can't say, I don't know what they're saying. I had a student come in and she showed me her phone and she said, Mr. Rogers, am I good? And I said, you are good. I said, oh, by the way, I got to switch my cam. This happens all the time. I'm now wanting to talk to you, not to the class. Okay. So the student comes in, shows me her phone and says, am I good? And I said, you are COVID clear. And she looked at me and she said, did you just call me a COVID queen? And I thought, that is just got to be the best remake of ABBA's 1970s hit that I've heard. But anyway, so this kind of stuff goes on. There's just a lot of confusion. Now we bring in the home audience. I'm trying to run a conversation between these students and those students so the home audience can hear me perfectly. And I can hear them perfectly unless they're in the chat, then I can't hear that. But nobody can hear the students' responses and reactions over here. So I actually have to go over, let me do this. I just want you to get the full effect. I actually have to go over to students and I have to get as close as I can and maintain social distance and listen to what they just said. And then I have to come back. And then I have to repeat that for the rest of the class. Now, obviously at this point, I've gotten a little bit better at this. Oh, just dropped that. I've gotten a little bit better at this, but you can see what this looks like. And this is why teachers are exhausted, because you're no longer just doing one class and focusing and everything's good. Now, the final part of this is we have to plan for failure. Every single section, every single class. We have to plan for failure because kids at homes will get dropped out of Zoom, and then they may get back 20 minutes later or not at all. And now they need to know what we had to do. So we have to plan 2 sets of lessons. One for the students that are here, and one for students who get bounced out and now need to access that lesson. So I want to show you, and I'm almost done, but this is important. I just learned this on Monday. We have breakout rooms in Zoom, which is the coolest thing in the world, all right? And I developed 3 breakout rooms for 3 different groups to talk about 3 topics we were looking at in psychology. And so I then moved the students in the rooms as close as they could possibly get to talk. And then the kids at home could join the same breakout room as the kids in class. Very cool. So what happened is really instructive and shows us how we have to plan for failure every single day. So what happened in this case, oh, sorry, hit that the wrong way, is my students have a computer over here and they're clustered around and they're in one of 3 breakout rooms, and there's 2 or 3, but they can't be too close and they're all masked. And then the students at home join that breakout room. So here's the thing I learned, and it was amazing. What happens when 2 different computers in the same room both have their mute off and the sound on? Feedback! And it's the worst sound in the world. So I had all 3 groups did that at the same time. They all had this feedback, and then beautiful. They knew exactly what to do. So they turned their mutes on. Guess what happened to the discussion? Their discussion questions are there, and they don't, who's going to start? So after the feedback, the next thing you hear in class is, "You're muted." And that happens all through class. And then finally, and I'm just watching this happen, and finally they all did the most amazing thing. They all got on their phones, they opened a Google Doc, and they started answering the questions together on the Google Doc silently. So that was our discussion. And so again, it is an amazing thing to do. It's exhausting because you have to kind of really think through what could go wrong. And then finally, on that day where the students couldn't work in groups and they did the Google Doc, Chris Giotto, who is amazing, she actually saved our butts because she developed 2 different lessons. So when the kids couldn't work together in groups, she actually developed another assignment for them to work together in a Google Doc silently, because we had to think through the failure. And so this is the kind of stuff that we're doing in simulcasting. Love to take any questions, or I can take this off right now.
Let's give Kevin a hand.